What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Today is part 2 on the RME VFO repair, and what we're going to start with is going ahead and removing this front panel off the radio. One of the first steps to doing that is removing all of the knobs. A lot of these knobs are going to be a small flat screwdriver, if not all of them, with the exception of one of mine that was replaced. This is a small Allen key, hex key, but for the most part these are just going to be a flat screw. So just turn them around until you can access the screw. We're going to work our way around and remove these, and in my case, should be in your case as well, it'll be very easy to tell where they go because these 5 are the same size, these 4 are the same size, and so are these 2. So it's pretty easy just to look at a picture of the unit, or maybe take a picture or a video or whatever to look back, but it should be pretty self-explanatory. So we're going to go ahead and get started removing the knobs. Okay, now that we've got all the knobs off, next thing we're going to want to do is our 2 switches here. We've got our headphone jack and our noise limiting switch. If I remember right, we want to go ahead and remove these because they're going to stay with the bottom end of the radio. Let me flip it up. We can confirm that, and I'll show you how the backside is going to look. Oh, and by the way, you're going to want to remove the cabinet. I already had my cabinet off. To remove the cabinet, you'll take your 4 feet off the bottom, because those 4 feet actually help to mount the cabinet. And then you're going to have 2 screws on each side. You can see where my screws came out, here and here, and then around on the other side, here and here. And if I remember right, you should be able to slide your cabinet back at that point and off. So taking a look bottom side here, we don't want this jack to stay with the front panel, obviously, because it's got all sorts of attachments. Same with our noise limiter switch. So we are going to go ahead and loosen those up. In my case, I've got a wrench or a socket here. I'll let you know what size in a second. And then here I just have a knurled sort of a nut that we're going to loosen as well. We have a 1/2 inch here. Make sure that the jack isn't twisting with the nut, because then you're going to twist it out of place and all your wires will be messed up, and you may even end up making contact with the chassis, which you certainly don't want to do. So just make sure that the nut itself is all that comes off. We're going to have a nut and a washer. And then on this side, someone before me was very rough with this, and you can see where they damaged the paint. We don't want to make that mistake, so we're going to be very careful with the pliers not to make contact with the face, but just to squeeze this a little bit and give it a turn. You can see there the whole switch is turning. So I'm going to reach around back and hold that while I loosen it so that it doesn't turn. Next, we want to take the wires off of our meter. These are just a 5/16. The red wire is labeled positive. So we'll just loosen these. And they're just clamped in there between the 2 nuts. Finally, this bulb will just pop out. And I believe that's it for removing things. The very last step should be, no, I apologize. There's going to be a couple steps related to the VFO, and I can't remember exactly. So we'll learn together, or we'll remember together. But in the meantime, these 4 screws are also going to come out. These 4 attach the front panel to, I guess, the chassis is what we'll call it. That is what it's called. So I'm going to take those 4 out now. Hopefully you could see there what I did before I removed the last screw, and I probably could have done it before I started removing these 4 Phillips, is I slid the front panel off the front of my work surface. That way there's no weight pushing up on this, so it's just resting off the edge and we are strictly supported by the chassis, because we don't want this pushing up against those screws. Just not real good. Okay, next thing, we're going to take our long precision screwdriver. This is about probably 10-inch. And what you can do, I kind of showed this in the last video, is looking through each of these 2 half-moon holes. Right there, you can see that flat screw before it focuses on the wrong spot. Well, you could see it. Yep, there's one down there. And then if you turn the knob over this way and look down there, you'll see the other one. Finally, there's one on the bottom of the pointer needle, and so you have to turn it fully one direction and reach in this way, and you can get that last screw in there on the bottom of the needle. So there's 3 screws. You should just loosen them. You shouldn't need to remove them. And I would say be careful not to remove them, or else you're going to have a heck of a time getting them started again. So we're going to go ahead and loosen those 3, and I'll show you how this front face comes off. Those 3 are loose now, and if I'm remembering correctly, at this point, we can just slide. It's heavy, so be careful doing that one-handed with a camera in your hand. You can go ahead and remove that. Now, one thing, this needle's going to need to be recalibrated. So some might say don't loosen it, just leave it where it was, but you're not sure to get the knob back on the shaft in the same orientation. So I would recommend just calibrating the needle anyway. So I'm going to slide this needle off here to take care of it. Set this front panel aside, because at this point we'll be able to pull our Vernier assembly out of the front face. Let me switch things around and catch up with you in a second. Once you got the front panel off, like so, here's the Vernier assembly. This will just pull right out. So on the next video, we'll go ahead and get this pulled apart, take a look at the breakdown, inspect things, clean and lubricate, and we'll reassemble. Thanks a lot for watching. Look forward to seeing you on part 3.